Hey you guys, this is going to be a short video on how to win at chess, and in particular it's one approach to winning games. There are lots of ways that you can win a chess game, alright? And sometimes you can capture a load of material and demoralize your opponent and force them to resign, or you can win in the end game with clever end game play and manage to convert a pawn into a queen and stuff like that, or you can get a sudden shocking checkmate, right, or trap a piece. There's so many different ways that you can win, and what this one is about is literally down to pawns. Okay, so in this game the material is equal pretty much throughout. It's a 5-minute blitz game that I played in today's tournament, and the 24-hour Saturday tournament. Okay. Now, note, and my opponent's rated sub 1000, but he does play with nearly 75% accuracy. I play with 84% accuracy, so not a huge difference. But the point is that, as you will see as we go through it, his pawns, although material is equal, the arrangement of his pawns becomes indefensible as we get towards the end of the game. Right, so let me take you through it. So we've got Scandinavian, takes, modern variation, knight comes out, and I take. Now he doesn't trade knights here, okay, but I capture his knight, right? And now he's going to end up with double pawns. If he captures with the D pawn, I will very likely trade queens, forces king to take, and he loses castling rights, which is going to make it hard for him to develop his rooks. If he captures with his B pawn, he's going to end up with 3 pawn islands as well as double pawns. So what does he do? He captures with the B pawn. Right, now he's got a lead in development, he's got a piece out of the board, but he already has 3 pawn islands. Okay, now as a general idea in chess, something for you to take on board, if you can give your opponent rotten pawns, okay, which are going to be hard to defend, then in general it will be in your interests to make progress towards the end game, simplify down, take pieces off the board, trade pieces, so that you should then be able to convert the end game with ease. And this is pretty much what happens. Okay, so I develop my knight, he pins my knight, and this is a useful move, right? I am doing 3 things here. Now this maybe isn't the move that a beginner would think. A beginner would think, oh no, my knight is under attack, let's break the pin, right? But if you move your bishop to there, where's your queen going to go, right? When's your king going to castle, right? When the D pawn is off the board, castling queenside makes a whole lot more sense because your rook is coming here onto the D file, okay? So I want to castle there, and so I found this move, right? It defends the knight. I mean, the knight's defended by a pawn anyway, but I don't want Laughing Boy here to mess up my pawn structure and give me double pawns and 3 pawn islands, right? So I'm still defending it with the queen. I'm also attacking the bishop, and I'm also attacking the G2 pawn that the bishop has undefended since it flew out into the board. One good reason to leave your bishops at home until you know what's going on. He takes, I recapture with the queen, and now he's still got a problem because I'm looking at G2, and potentially, I mean, he'd have to bring his queen out, really, in order to save the rook. Then we might trade queens. Okay, anyway, he plays knight f3 to shield the pawn, which makes perfect sense, and it's a developing move. So good move from him. I bring out my bishop now and pin his knight. Now he doesn't have the option of locking with his bishop because he's lost it somewhere along the way. Now he plays d4. Sensible, right? It's pushing forward, it's unleashing this bishop, which, by the way, already does have a route into the board. And the idea is it's controlling some center. But now I see another opportunity, right? I capture his knight. Now, if he captures with this pawn, guess what? He's now got 1, 2, 3, 4 pawn islands, right? And how is he going to defend that, right? Right now, he has enough pieces to defend it. They can take an island each and have the king spare, right? But it's not going to stay that way. Now, if he captures with his queen, which is what happened, I simply trade off queens, and lo and behold, he's got 4 sets of pawns to look after in the endgame. Right? And the point is that these are completely standalone units. Right? This pawn can't be defended by another pawn and can't defend another pawn. These guys can maybe, some of them can defend each other. Right? These guys can't defend each other at all, and neither can that guy there. Okay, so although material is bang equal, right? Look at where my pawns are. 7 of them, all at home. So I castle long, activating my rook straight away. He pushes h4. I'm not bothered, because this pawn can't do anything. This pawn can come all the way to here, and then I just push b6, and it's stuck. Right? So I now push g7 because I want to get my bishop into the game, and I figure that this diagonal looks quite nice. I may have ideas at some point in time of taking out this rook, or at least threatening this rook. Okay, and that's really something to be building into your middle game play, is how can I build up layers of potential threats. Okay, so he pushes a5 for no good reason. I play bishop g7, and now I'm ready to activate my other rook. He plays his bishop to there, and now f5. So what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to stop the advance of these guys, these doubled f pawns. He brings his king forward, I centralize my rook. Right? It's all standard stuff. He brings a rook across, looking at here. I'm thinking, well, what's the plan? Is he going to push that and put 2 attackers on here? Well, I just push b6 again. And this pawn's out the game. Okay, so e5 now. So my threat is capture on here with a discovered check. Right? If he takes, I'll probably take with the bishop and threaten to take this pawn with a discovered check, or even this pawn with a discovered check, because you can't recapture. So he goes ahead with plan A anyway, literally plan A, it's the A pawn, and I just push b6. It's like we didn't see that one coming. Now his king runs away, I grab a pawn. If this pawn recaptures, I can recapture with the bishop or with the rook. But he wants to undouble his pawn, so there he goes. Right? Take that, and now look, remember? Threatening the rook on a1. So now he's got to do something, and it might be something he doesn't really want to do. So he might come there and hit the bishop, but the bishop's defended. What's he going to do? He comes there. Okay? I don't even have to do anything at this point. But I retreat my bishop now to a square where it's defended by a pawn. Okay, it's better to have your pieces defended by pawns than by other pieces, because it now frees up this rook to do interesting things and have fun, like capturing his bishop. He spots that threat. Okay, but now again, Bentley, I've got ideas, you know? I've got 2 attackers, 1 defender, takes, I win a pawn. Right, so now I'm 2 pawns up, and look at his remaining pawns. They are scattered, divided, leaderless. Right? He doubles his rooks here. I capture another pawn, and I've got loads of pawns. Right, he attacks my rook, so I come back to here, threatening this pawn. Right, so one of these guys is going to have to come back to here, or come there and get traded off. So what happens? Nothing. He instead attacks h5. Now, I don't have to defend this pawn. I've got plenty of time, right? Because I can now play rook takes c2, check. And when you're in check, you've got to get out of check. Capturing my pawn doesn't get him out of check, right? He'd still be in check. That would be illegal. So he moves his king, and I just quietly play h5, defend the pawn. And now this is the backwards pawn, this guy here, but he can't attack that with his rook because he'll get took. And I've got ideas about maybe playing my rook to here, and suddenly everything's safe, apart from possibly the a7 pawn. But in order to get to that, he's going to have to get a rook behind, so ain't going to happen. So he plays his king down. I play my rook across, here now defending this in case he's got ideas of bringing the king in. So, oh no you don't. Now, I see an opportunity to trade off rooks. This is simple stuff. It's just arithmetic. I'm just simplifying the equation. Right? He's got to take. He can't save both rooks. Well, he doesn't have to take. He can do something else. But he takes, and I take back with a pawn. I take back with the H pawn just to help with the progress of Freddie. King comes in here. What do? Rook d6 check, X-ray defending the g6 pawn. King moves to there. King moves up here, push a pawn, right? And this is all we do. Now we just press forward. Press forward. This pawn's no threat, it's locked. This pawn, as soon as it comes there, it's getting removed. Okay? Apart from that, everything's happy. And we just mess about a bit. And I'm pushing a pawn. And now he comes here, grabs a pawn, but that is inconsequential because your goal in the end game is to get the best result, which here is a win. King has to take, and now f4, and I've actually got two completely passed pawns that are unstoppable, right? This pawn here, its square is like this. The king is outside of the square and can't get in the square on his next move, so this king cannot catch that pawn. Okay, so it's going to be all over, and he resigns. So the point of this is small differences, small advantages can be plenty. You don't have to get move of the day or an immortal game to win a game of chess. You can win it in a very boring style. Okay, and in this game, that's exactly what I did. I managed to mess up his pawn structure at the cost of no material to me or him. It was just making the right trades at the right time that gave him a weakness that I could then manipulate later on and take advantage of later on, leading to a very, very straightforward win. So the point for you to take away is you've got to be pragmatic about your games. It doesn't have to be pretty, doesn't have to be dramatic, it doesn't have to be super attacking or elegant. You can get a win, and here I came away with 1 blitz rating point, which I'll take very gratefully. And that's it. That's all you need to know. Okay, so thought that might be interesting for a few of you out there. Thanks for watching. See you soon.